All right, off you go.
Okay.
After you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, welcome everyone.
Welcome to everybody.
If you're listening or watching.
Yeah.
This is the very first episode of our podcast,
Yeah.
which we've chosen to call My Dad versus World Cinema.
Yeah.
Now, if it's not obvious, it's because I'm here with my dad.
Hello.
I'm Elliot Coen, by the way.
And I'm Philip Coen, his dad.
Yeah. And I'm also here with World Cinema. All of it.
Yeah.
I've got every film that's ever been made.
Well, all the good ones.
Yeah, that's what I like to think. But
Yeah.
you're going to be the judge of that.
Yeah, and just to help people who are watching, tell us about some of the series of films where they're coming from. So you mentioned Criterion to me last week.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of films from the Criterion collection.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of films released on UK labels because we're here in the UK.
Yeah.
So we've got the Eureka Masters of Cinema. Got some Arrow Video for the more cult films. Yeah, Arrow Academy, Indicator. So this will mean nothing to everyone who doesn't collect Blu-rays.
Yeah.
But basically, it's all the good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, my goal is to show these films to you.
And this is where most of your inheritance money's gone.
Yeah.
This is where grandma's money's gone.
Yeah, all of it.
Okay.
But it's a solid investment. That's what I think.
I think it is, actually.
When these films go out of print, they're worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it anyway.
I might be out of print before they're out of print.
I know, exactly, yeah. But when you go out of print, you're not worth anything.
That's a shame. I mean,
I'm just talking about human life in general. That's just how it works.
This could turn into a philosophy thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's kill that.
Let's kill that straight away.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get off this subject.
Yeah, so anyway, it's off the first episode of this podcast. We have no idea how it's going to go.
No.
It's
going well up to that.
I know, yeah. I mean, we had a few attempts of this, but we're giving it a proper go now.
Yeah, so we might put the other attempts on the bloopers reel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, the basic goal of the podcast is to explore world cinema because you are not acquainted with it at all.
Not at all.
Apart from the few films I've shown you already.
And seeing as grandma's money's gone into all of this, I thought I need to find out what he's spending his money on.
Exactly, yeah. And she'd be happy that I was spending it on all these.
Yeah, I'm sure she would.
On all these, because she was a big fan of Italian neorealism, I think.
I think so.
No, she wasn't.
No.
Had she ever seen a film?
Yeah, I mean, bloody hell, she didn't live in the life. I hasten to add she wasn't from the 1800s, and I'm not really that old.
No. Okay, she'd seen a film.
Yeah, no, she did like films.
Yeah.
In fact, you might actually have a copy of it somewhere, The Quiet Man with John Wayne.
The Quiet Man, yeah. That's on these shelves,
yeah,
actually.
we see that. Why she liked that is it was filmed near to a place called Ballyglunin.
Yeah.
Which is where my dad was from, in Ireland.
Yeah.
So there's your trivia question for tonight.
But anyway, that's going on a totally different tangent.
Totally different.
So yeah, I've chosen a first film to talk about.
Yeah.
Now, I had to do a lot of thinking about this because obviously I
can see the smoke coming out your ears.
The first film that we were going to talk about had to be a good one.
Yeah.
And it also had to be a good introduction for you into world cinema.
Okay.
I couldn't go straight into the hard stuff because that would turn you off right away, and it would probably turn off all the listeners who, the listeners and the viewers that want to get into world cinema. I wanted a good starting place to dip your toe in.
And I hasten to add for people that are viewing this, when you talk about the hard stuff in film, you're meaning deep genre, not the hard stuff that the police call and look for.
No.
Okay.
Although there's probably a lot of that went on in the background of these films. Yeah.
Okay.
So, shall I reveal the first film?
Reveal the film.
I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, the first film's already been revealed because we have it in the background. It's M by Fritz Lang.
Now, what would have been good now if we had a close-up, it zoomed in?
Well, I can actually do that. I'm going to do that in post-production.
Well, can you do the thing like Spielberg did in Jaws? When what's his name? Roy
Scheider.
Yeah, he when he was looking and realised the shark was in the water, and they did that thing where it zooms in and zooms out at the same time.
So that's called a dolly zoom.
Okay.
But to do that, the camera moves in, and the thing that you're shooting moves back.
Right.
So they're both moving in tandem. So obviously I can't do that because.
So not only
that was a terrible.
So wait a minute.
Why did you come up with such a terrible idea?
So not only are we offering a review at film school.
Well, this is film school. Yeah.
Why watch Martin Scorsese on Masterclass when you can listen to this?
Yeah.
or watch it. Anyhow.
You're like a Poundland version of Martin Scorsese.
Yes. Many a Poundland. I think I wouldn't like to reveal how many pounds you're talking about.
No, that can be a competition, just guess.
I mean, if I was worth my weight in gold, we wouldn't even have to do this.
No.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we're doing this. We're doing this purely for the money.
Yeah.
Not the passion.
Not the passion.
No. So, we're talking about M, which is from 1931. It's a German film.
Yes.
It's a film that came just after the silent era.
Yeah.
So it is in sound.
And just before the Nazi era.
Yeah, of course. Directed by Fritz Lang.
Yeah. And I knew a little bit about Fritz Lang.
Yeah, because go on, you can say how you knew him.
Well, the only reason I knew him is because obviously the inspiration in Metropolis, the robot was the inspiration, for C-3PO in Star Wars.
Exactly.
That's how I knew Fritz Lang.
Yeah, well, Metropolis itself is like a great film, inspired so much of science fiction.
Yeah.
But we're talking about M, which is a totally different film.
Yeah.
To Metropolis.
Yeah.
Even though both films begin with the same letter. that wasn't funny.
Do you know what?
Why did I think that was funny?
Can I just say something to you? I am actually literate. So there was no need to.
It's really hard to tell sometimes.
And today's number is 6.
Yeah.
Let's look through the window. Which brings it on. Do you know what's suddenly got onto my head then? Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers.
You know, this new film with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
It's a lovely day in the neighborhood. And, anyhow.
Yeah.
But that's another episode we'll have to do.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Getting back to M.
Yes. So, M.
Yeah, and last week you put that on and we watched M.
Yeah.
I hadn't got a clue what M was about. I mean, this is the good thing that we've done is instead of me being totally briefed about the film, what you do is you come down with a stack of films and go, that's a German one, that's a Japanese one, that's a Korean one.
I go, pick your country.
Pick your country. So I picked the country. I don't know what the genre is. So it's not like I'm saying, I really like comedies. And you're thinking, I'll play safe now. I'll get my German comedy.
Yeah.
Do they exist?
They do exist, actually.
So you're not doing that. So all I know is it's a German film with English subtitles. It can be from any era.
Yeah.
So it can be from the silent era right up to last year or this year. So that's all we knew. So all I knew was M.
And I decided with M because I personally think it's quite an accessible film.
Yeah.
Because it has a great story, as I'm sure you can attest to. But also it's from 1931, so that's quite early on in world cinema's history. If I'd have picked a modern film, you'd be comparing that to modern, American and Western films.
Well, one of the things I noticed, just observed, not knowing about anything about the film, was it had the feel of a silent film with sound.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Because obviously Fritz Lang, he made a lot of silent films before this.
Yeah.
Many people considered him one of the great masters of the silent era.
Yeah.
So, he had mastered the craft already. So a lot of that carries on into this. There are great periods and scenes in this film where there's very little sound.
Yeah.
There's no music, very little sound, no dialogue, but it's, gripping you just from the images. And that shows someone who is very well versed with the whole craft of cinema.
So my initial thought when I watched the film, or started to watch the film, probably for about the first 10 seconds, I thought, oh God, black and white German, early 1930s.
No car explosions.
No car explosions, no super villains.
No nudity.
No nudity. I mean, genuinely no nudity.
No.
This could be a bit tedious.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think I actually asked you in the first 10 seconds, how long is this film going to be on?
Yeah. But I honestly think that, unfortunately, that's the kind of stigma that a lot of world cinema gets. Because initially, it's quite jarring because we're used to a certain pace in American films and English films. And especially going back in history, there wasn't much of a blueprint that they had to follow.
Yeah. So with the film, the one thing that I noticed, obviously you've switched the film on and I'm watching it, is the story rapidly emerging.
Yes.
And the way that they use. Now, obviously, I'm not going to give away any spoilers at this point.
No, because the plan with this podcast,
there's a plan.
There's a very brief plan. I've not written it down anywhere. It's all
on the back of a napkin.
Yeah. The plan is we're going to talk about the film without spoilers. Yeah. So it's going to be just brief context, but nothing that reveals plot or anything like that.
All right.
Just to get people interested. So if you find that you're getting interested with what we're talking about, that's the perfect point to turn us off.
Yeah.
And then go and watch the film.
Okay.
And then come back for the delights that we have later on.
I think what we should do now is give people
like a primer.
Primer. So this is about murders.
Yes.
As in the M for murder.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's about a particular type of murder. It was the murder of children.
Mm-hmm.
And it was done in such a way. I mean, when I was watching the film, not knowing anything about the story, not having watched a German film from that era, I was struck actually at the way that he managed to build up quite a bit of suspense.
Mm-hmm.
So in the early scenes where we learn about the build up to the child murder, I found the way that he actually managed to, instead of trying to do it in a short way,
mm-hmm.
he had a little bit of a length of build up.
Yeah, well, that's the key to suspense, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, if you give him more time to think about it, you're thinking more about what's coming next.
Do you know what I noticed was missing? Music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of music did you want? Some disco?
Well, not disco. No, but what I noticed is there was no big reliance on sort of theme music. You know, like you watch some stuff in films, especially made-for-TV films,
mm-hmm.
and they use an incidental music every 2 seconds.
Yes.
To tell you when something's starting, when it's stopping.
And it's telling you when to feel sad and all of that.
There was none of that.
Yeah. Well, we talked a bit about this. I wasn't sure whether that was just a hangover of the silent era. Because
or he had no budget.
I mean, I would have imagined he had a bit of budget.
Yeah.
Because he was already quite successful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that maybe, and this shows how much research we've done, because we just don't know.
We don't know.
No. Spoilers. We're not going to do much research for this podcast.
No.
This is very off the cuff.
Off the cuff.
Maybe 1% of what we say will be worth something.
Yeah. But that 1% could be worth a lot.
But yeah, so I just thought that maybe the music was because they didn't know music had to be in films.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's about a child murderer. And this child murderer, it's weird because they're almost the protagonist, aren't they?
Yeah.
But then they're also not, because they're not revealed much early on in the film.
Well, that was interesting because when I was watching it, I was trying to work out what I knew. I knew the sex of the child murderer,
mm-hmm.
but I couldn't discern anything on the features of the child murderer.
Mm.
However, when it then showed the child murderer, I went, "Blimey, I know him!"
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very, very famous actor who then went on to a long string of character roles in Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly.
But we won't spoil that for the audience.
No, because I guess that is kind of
and I think that's
surprise.
And I think that's probably the role that landed him in Hollywood.
Oh, definitely, because after this film, Fritz Lang went over to Hollywood.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he went over with this other gentleman, and they kind of.
That sounded a bit sordid.
Fritz
Lang went to Hollywood with this other gentleman.
I was trying to not reveal his name. I almost said his name, and then I just...
You did. Yeah. We could make a game show out of this. I could have like a boing. So when you reveal who the actor was, and then you
do you think he was a gentleman, this guy? In real life?
I don't know.
We don't want to disparage his name, even though we're not saying his name.
And maybe his estate is still active and they might sue us.
Maybe.
But no, I think he was... but he has the features, and I think what they did do is they used somebody with a particular characteristics facially to actually have somebody that seemed like, oh, he looks like a monster.
Yeah.
However, as the film develops, it's quite impassioned.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Oh God, I'm trying not to talk about spoilers. It's really hard. But I know what you mean. Like if you saw this guy in a lineup, you'd pick this guy out, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with the film, I start to enjoy the film.
Well, I want to just explain a bit more about the premise.
Okay.
So it's about this child murderer,
Mm-hmm.
and the police just can't catch him. Everyone's trying to find him, and he keeps doing these murders. No one can find him, and there's a big reward out for him. And this starts to impact the criminal underbelly of the city. So then they think that because the police are so incompetent and the police are cracking down on this criminal underbelly, they decide to take matters into their own hands to try and catch this guy.
And that's when it becomes really interesting, because that was the piece that I instead of using a traditional twist in a movie, what I found really interesting about this is the film was playing with it played with my emotions, because obviously I felt really sorry for the victims and their families, and then you find yourself rooting for the baddies.
Yeah. Well, you find yourself at different points in the film rooting for all sorts of different people, don't you?
And that was interesting because, for something from the 1930s, that would have normally been, for instance, like in the Westerns in the 40s and 50s, the black hats and the white hats.
Yeah.
So you could actually work out who was the good guy and who was the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
But in this film, you found yourself changing sides as the film went on.
Well, it makes you question... your morality and where things lie.
Well, wait a minute. Interestingly, you use the word morality there.
Mm-hmm.
There seemed to be a big moral running through this.
Yeah.
Yeah? To do with, obviously, children and the family perspective.
Yeah.
And caring for those children.
Yeah, because there's definitely a message behind it that you should look after children.
Yeah.
And we almost thought maybe it's like a public service announcement in a way.
It was strange because it was a type of film I would have thought, and again, we haven't done any research into this, that if you look back at newspapers from Germany around that time, I'm wondering if there was like a string of child murders.
Maybe.
And that this was a reaction really, to making a film, about the public's view. But it was interesting, actually, the way that the film plays off on different characters and different groups of people within that film.
Yeah.
I did actually watch it. You might have thought I was asleep.
Well, it sounds like you watched the trailer at least. And maybe read Wikipedia.
No, I didn't, honestly. That's the one thing I'm not doing for this, because if I read Wikipedia, I'd go in pre-armed and pre-warned and have a perception of what the film's about.
There have been times in the past when I've been watching a film and you've been kind of half watching it.
Yeah.
So this is not for the podcast, but in the past.
Yeah.
And you'll be there on your computer while I'm watching it. And you will go on Wikipedia and just read what happens at the end. Well, just because you're like half watching the film, but you don't want to watch the rest of it, but you like it enough.
I've done that.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying to the people.
I own up.
You do this all the time.
Yeah, I have done.
Yeah.
I do that many times because it'll get to a certain point where after investing 45 to 60, maybe 75 minutes in the film, and then I'll ask you, how much longer is this?
And I say 3 hours.
So at that point, I think to myself, well, I need to get some other stuff done. So what I'll do is I'll go on Wikipedia.
But what other stuff are you doing?
Well, that's secret. We can't tell people what I'm doing. That's a national security question you're asking there.
Yeah. Yeah, the name you've given on this podcast is actually an alias, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say an alien then.
Well,
so yeah,
they might be out there.
So getting back to, and that's how I've watched some films that you've tried to get me into in the past.
But this podcast is a bit of an experiment in you actually watching films all the way to the end.
And I promise I watched the whole thing.
Yeah. No, you did, because I was there beside you saying, watch.
And when you remove the electrodes, and it stopped buzzing and it stopped stinging, and the pain thing that used to flick every so often to wake me up, I started to really enjoy the film.
Yeah. That even added to some of the enjoyment, didn't it?
I thought it was like some sort of surround sound or some sort of sensor vision.
Yeah. It's like that thing that they do at the big cinema near us. They have that is it 4DX or something?
Yeah.
Where they spray smells inside the cinema, and they do like water spray.
I don't think they've got that at that cinema. I think you just got to a very lively. You had very lively audience members with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I go to the cinema like that. You know the cinema that he goes to in Taxi Driver?
Yeah.
I go to that kind of cinema.
Yeah.
And get all sorts of sprays. Anyway. Back to World Cinema.
Back to World Cinema. So
no, I was going to ask you a question. So,
okay.
Because this is for people that haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
They're kind of on the fence. They're like, should I watch this? Should I not?
They're doing on a fence.
I know, they're just stuck there. They're probably going to take offence. So yeah, if they're on the fence, what would you say to them, or what would you compare this to that people might already know, and say this is a bit like this, or this is where this thing came from? This is
a really good Hitchcock film.
Yeah,
think of a really good North by Northwest or something like that.
Funnily enough, Hitchcock made a film with this particular actor that we've not talked about yet.
Yeah. So now what's happening, people are now, while they're watching this, they're on Wikipedia.
They're like, what? Which actors did Hitchcock work with?
Yeah, and they're trying to... So
I think we're bigging up how big this reveal is, because it's probably... Yeah. Many people are probably going to watch this.
Yeah, but we've got to big up something.
This is the thing. If you're not into world cinema...
Yeah.
You probably might not even know who this is. But...
I think they will do.
Yeah.
I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger... Oh, sorry. Did I mention his name? It's not Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No.
Because he was Austrian.
Yeah. And he doesn't kill children.
Well, it's not what the Hollywood Reporter and TMZ said. Joking. Here's the caveat. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a nice guy.
I knew you were joking when you said you read TMZ. You're not cool enough for that. But yeah, so you'd recommend this to people that like a good thriller? Yeah,
good thriller. And it's got a good moral story. It's well directed. What I actually...
I
was going to say what I actually liked about it is when I thought it was actually coming into an end, like a regular movie, because it seemed to have told the story.
Yeah.
It suddenly took off into another... Is it epilogue type?
Yeah, an epilogue, you can say that.
Yeah.
It got you thinking, didn't it, at the end?
Got us thinking.
Well, we're going to talk about that in the spoiler bit.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you now. So this was your first foray into world cinema. After watching this film, do you think you were affected by it being German or being subtitled or in black and white? Did that affect your, enjoyment of the film at all?
No.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
There you go then. There's nothing stopping you. Just give this film a chance.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it. Really good.
Yeah.
It was as relevant today as it was in the 1930s. And very well made film.
Yeah.
And a really good film. So, yeah, I'd 9 out of 10. 8 or 9 out of 10, yeah. 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
To be on the safe side.
I have trouble giving ratings to films. Because what's an 8 out of 10? What's a 10 out of 10?
I'm trying to think of.
I'm not asking you for specific examples. I just mean like,
Your mom is a 10 out of 10. That's just in case my wife's watching this at some point.
She's definitely not watching this.
She might do.
Yeah.
This could make its way onto planes.
Okay, so Mum definitely doesn't watch much world cinema.
No, she doesn't.
I think she'd like this film.
I think she would.
Everyone, this is the kind of film you could show your mum or your aunt or your uncle.
Yeah, that's not interested in.
Or your great grandmother.
But you might have to dig up to show them this film.
Okay, that's a bit morbid.
I was actually trying to work that one out in my head as you said it. I mean, a great grandmother, that would be, yeah. Anyhow, we digress. So a good film. I enjoyed it.
So shall we dive into spoilers?
Yeah.
So we're going to move into a spoiler section. If you've not seen M, go away and watch it, and please come back because we need people to listen to us. And when you've got the opportunity to give us some comments,
on the YouTube about the spoilers, about the whole thing.
The YouTube.
On das YouTube. Trying to get topical there.
Yeah.
When you got the chance, take it.
It's very inspirational.
Yeah,
when you've got the chance to comment, just take it.
Yeah, because you might never get the chance again.
So yeah, let us know what you think about the film as well.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about us on the film.
We're sunk. That's it. Over.
Yeah. But this could be like, you know, there are certain filmmakers that made one film.
Yeah.
And they were panned critically and by the studios.
And then it becomes a cult.
And then it becomes a cult classic.
You did say cult.
I did, yeah. Like the great Charles Lawton. He directed a film called Night of the Hunter, which many people think is a masterpiece. I'm sure I'll show you that on this podcast at some point.
Was he German?
No.
Okay.
Charles Lawton was English, wasn't he?
Yeah. Was he English or was he an American player?
Was he one of those Americans that
tried to be English?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Spoilers.
So this is your last warning. Tune out now if you don't want to be spoiled. Yeah. We're about to get into the juicy stuff. So, how do we kick off the spoilers? Well, we're finally going to reveal who it was. And if you've watched this, you already know. It was Peter Lorre, wasn't it?
Peter Lorre, yes. Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, exactly. He was in Hitchcock's The Man Who Knew Too Much.
There you go. A bit of film history there. And he was a really good lead in this. And what was interesting about it is that he played the character really well.
Yeah.
So recap. Well, yeah, because if we look at the key points of the film, I mentioned earlier on about this, the time that it took for the build-up.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the scenes, obviously, where the mother starts to realise slowly that a child has gone, is missing. And the way that other children, I mean, we've seen the other children arriving back from school, with neighbours calling.
Yeah.
And you start to, I felt I was feeding into that dread.
Oh, yeah, because the way it builds and then it builds, like you mentioned earlier, it doesn't just jump into it.
Yeah.
It makes you soon come to realise that, okay, this child is gone. This child is going to go and get murdered. What
was really good is the way that they used. You actually didn't see anything to do with Peter Lorre or the child getting murdered. So there was no scenes with that. You just seen the balloon.
Yeah.
That was bought from the blind man who played a very important part in the film later on.
Well, this is what I was thinking the other day about this film. You could re-edit to make it just look like a man being very nice to a child.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would just ruin the whole point of the film. But, you know, that's how implicit it was what was going on.
Yeah.
Is that you knew the child was going to get murdered by him. Okay. But it never shows it. It never shows... You know, it never shows anything happening to the child. It never shows a dead body. That's the kind of thing that a modern film would do.
And what he did as well was this whole idea of taking the fear of the murderer and the fear by the general public and other parents of the murderer, then turning it into suspicion. So with that great piece where suddenly anybody that talked to a child, didn't matter whether you knew them or not, as a neighbour, people became suspicious.
And it wasn't, and like you mentioned, it wasn't just that. People were then accusing other people of being the murderer just as a way to get at them, to assassinate their character.
And there's the famous scene where there's a group of people around a table and they're talking.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden one of them, who would be the typical sort of loudmouth, has a go at another sort of weaker character and accuses him of being the murderer, and he just loses the plot.
Yeah.
And they eventually have to throw him out. So there was a whole piece around that.
Yeah.
Then, as we spoke earlier, the interesting dialogue where the police at first are portrayed as being ineffective.
Yeah, they're totally incompetent, aren't they?
Because at one point they were looking for the murderer, and there's a scene where somebody writes a letter to like the police commissioner from internally, a report, and on it's got something like, we must look for people with a wooden table using a red pencil.
Yeah.
Which, interesting, wasn't the surface that he eventually wrote the letters on. It was a window ledge.
No.
So yeah, I mean, it was really interesting.
What's your favourite kind of table? Do you prefer a wooden table?
I'll be buying me a present. No, the wooden table. No, I like.
This is now the IKEA podcast.
Yeah. So welcome to Furniture with my dad. No, I like modern furniture.
Yeah.
Glass, steel.
Yeah. See, the thing is, if this was a glass table, the police wouldn't be able to track you.
No,
Because it's only because of the carving of the wood, isn't it? That they find him.
Well, I think it's because he had a particular pressure, didn't he, on the
Yes.
using the pencil and one of the red pencil. But
Yeah.
so suddenly you go from the police being totally inept, the political pressure of the various sort of tower, powerful people within the local council, town council, putting pressure on, and then suddenly, where we really it starts to take off is when the criminal underworld get involved, and that was interesting because he was playing with the moral question again. So you've got people who are by nature really bad people who steal and rob and thieve and murder, but when it came to a child being murdered, their morality kicked in, and obviously they also had the situation where it was affecting their criminal activity, because suddenly the police were cracking down everywhere that they were operating.
But it gives a bit of humanity to those criminals, because later on, when they chase Peter Lorre into the office building with the bank inside, they're breaking into this office building and bank not to steal anything.
But to find a person.
They're just purely looking to find him so they can take him to the police.
And that threw the police, because when they arrived at the building and found out it had been broken into, and there'd been all sorts of, they used jackhammers and drills and everything to go through floors. There's a bank on the first or second floor or the ground floor with a massive vault full of money, and nobody's gone near it.
No.
So a very interesting play for the time, because remember it was the 1930s.
Yeah.
So it would have been very easy to write a traditional black and white villain, goody, baddie. But a great play, and they effectively get him. So they've now got him.
Yeah.
The scenes that really were interesting for me was that at that point it appeared the film was coming to a natural ending.
Yeah.
And you could have ended the film there, but of course they took the character to the basement of that old factory.
Yeah.
And when Peter Lorre goes in, all of a sudden he's presented with all the local people.
Yeah, it's a trial, isn't it? He's on trial.
Yeah, it's like a kangaroo court. And he's got people there who's lost their children, the people who he's murdered.
Yeah. So you didn't expect that bit at all, did you?
Absolutely not.
No.
But the piece then was when, instead of it just being a let's hang him, they decided to give him a proper trial, and they actually appointed someone that they knew to act as a pseudo defense counsel.
Yeah.
And that's where it became really interesting.
Because again, that kind of shows some morality on the side of the criminals, in that we're going to give him a chance anyway.
Yeah. But what was interesting there is we suddenly had a person that had committed the most heinous crimes, but then suddenly admitted that they were ill. And so you then have the dilemma, is this person really evil, or are they just really sick?
Yeah. And that's obviously a really important question still today.
Yeah, so is he schizophrenic? But then the backlash from the attendant audience of people who were there, who the criminals themselves, at one point Peter Lorre saying, I couldn't help it, that the voices, I had to do it, I was compelled to do it. And then the criminals went, that's what we all say when we go to trial. So it was like they're saying, we don't believe you, because when we go to trial for anything, we tell them we couldn't help ourselves. We were under pressure internally to do it. And then there was a backlash, of course, let's just go and hang him.
Yeah.
And then,
it's funny, I think that maybe this is not from M, but that is a trope that's so common throughout the rest of cinema, in that, if there's a film about someone who gets put in jail and is falsely accused, and they go in screaming saying, I've not done it, and everyone else is like, yeah, we tried that one too.
And so what was coming across in that film was there was two narratives. The narrative of this man has committed heinous crimes, but he is mentally ill. Yeah. And the other side of it, which was people saying, we don't really care if he's mentally ill. Yeah. He's killed children. He is so clever and manipulative that he will spend a time in jail. He'll appear to be have become better from his illness.
Yeah.
He'll then be rehabilitated, and then he'll be let out, and he'll commit the same crime again.
And obviously, that's a question that no one's really got the answer to.
It's as relevant today as it was back in the 1930s, and it was that piece of the film for me that really shone through.
Yeah. I mean, I do love that ending scene, but I think my particular favourite scene is obviously when the blind man hears him whistling again.
Yeah, because that gives it away.
Yeah, because he hears him whistling and he remembers the tune, which is that Hall of the Mountain King, which I've spoken about. He remembers hearing that around the time of that little girl going missing.
Yeah, so the first...
So he gets someone to go and follow him.
And that was part of which I thought was great as well, because that was suddenly the police swinging back to become effective. So the police had paid a bit of a low key, couldn't really work out what was going on, and then decided that they needed eyes and ears all over the city to try and catch this person.
Yeah.
So what they did is, who could we get? Well, if we put police on every corner, that'll dissuade them from going out. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to engage the criminal community because, unknown to them, the criminal community was out looking for him anyhow. So then it was, who would they get on every corner who would be innocuous and people wouldn't take much notice of? Beggars.
Yeah.
And that's what they did, which was a superb piece of stroke of writing.
Yeah. So then the blind homeless guy, he gets the other guy to follow him, and that's when he's trying to get close, but he doesn't want to alert Peter Lorre that he's following him.
Yeah.
So that's when he comes up with the ingenious idea of getting the chalk and putting an M on his hand, and then accidentally bumping into him.
And that was then suddenly Peter Lorre was walking around with the M. Which is the M for murderer, which is obviously...
That's of course, the artwork from the film.
Absolutely. So a really good film, great ending.
Yeah.
The way that they pull the whole thing together at the end, I thought was extremely good. It had a lot of moral questions in it.
Yeah.
And the final scene, or the final caption, if I remember, was all about your children.
Mm-hmm.
You must look after them, which is like a public service message suddenly right at the end of the film. But a good film, something that I didn't find boring at all. I enjoyed every single minute of it.
Well, everyone that's listening now has probably seen it, so we don't have to do much convincing.
Yeah.
But I think if you're listening now, you probably do really like the film.
Yeah.
And you must really like us if you're still listening.
Yeah. Is there anybody listening? Is there anybody out there?
No.
Well, we gave it our best shot. Hopefully, if you like this first episode and you've listened to this first episode, we will be doing more episodes.
I hope so.
I will be.
You will be.
I've got to watch every single film along here.
Do you know how many films are here?
Go on, tell me.
Gosh, I mean, I'd have to estimate. There's at least 1,500 films.
So there's 1,500 episodes of this podcast,
and I've seen probably about 40 of them. So I'm making good progress.
Good.
It's been a good investment of Grandma's
money.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have bought wine, gold,
and stocks
and shares, a house.
I could have bought Apple stock.
Oh, yeah. So no, but yeah, listen, a good film, and I'm up for watching more films. So I think you've convinced me to continue with the experiment.
Yeah. So if you're still listening or watching or both, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Yeah. I hope you liked the bit of pitter patter. Is that what they call it?
Repartee.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, bit of repartee. And I'm not an actor. I'm actually his dad.
Yeah. That we know of, like we said before.
Maybe what we should do is do like a Jerry. Is it Jerry Springer? We'll do 5 episodes, and then I'll do a DNA. You do a DNA test.
Okay.
And you'll see that if I'm. And then the shock horror would be, I'm not really your father, and then that would have blown the whole concept.
And who is Peter Lorre?
No, just because I look like Peter Lorre.
But yeah, let us know what you thought about this first episode. Or let us know if we've done anything horrifically wrong that you think we should improve upon.
And if we should take up another career.
Yeah. God, heaven forbid if this was our career.
Oh my God, we'd be penniless. We wouldn't have been able to afford.
No,
well, you didn't have to because Grandma gave us the money.
I know. I'd have to start selling them just to buy bread and whatever else I eat.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know what you think of M as well.
Yeah.
And let us know if you'd like to, let us know of any films you'd like to hear us talk about.
Yeah.
That was a tongue twister for me.
Yeah. See, easy for you to say. Okay, well, until then, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully we'll see you again next time.
Yeah.
And listen in.
Yeah. That was a bit of a stumble, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a bit of a stumble because I was thinking then, do you know what threw me? The 1930s film.
Yeah.
Because I suddenly thought we were on radio. Okay.
How did they talk in the radio back then?
Why I ought to shudder.
And we're bringing you the latest news from
1933 and on the east side of Chicago, Elliot Ness and his bag of untouchables.
Do you reckon back then there was a radio show reviewing films?
No.
Do you think there wouldn't have been
I don't think they would have done.
I don't
No, you see, nobody needed to review film because everybody went to the film.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I wonder if... I know that film criticism, started to boom in the, 50s and 60s.
Yeah, 1940s, of course, you had the famous... the film critics... Oh, God, I'm trying to think who it was. It Llewellyn Parsons?
God, this is the extra sauce.
This is the extra sauce. This is the secret sauce. Yeah, we just gave you the filler at the beginning. This is the real
deal.
Yeah, this is the stuff you have to really subscribe for. Yeah, it was the 1940s, really. It was all the background gossip of films and then the reviews. Yeah. But, of course, the problem was, you see, people weren't really... I don't think... We'll have to check this. I don't think people were reviewing films because Hollywood was so powerful. God forbid a paper to say that a film wasn't that great.
Oh, yeah. You'd be in the paper the next day.
You'd be in the paper. On the east side of Chicago, a homicide last night. 2 men were found dead. Yeah, I think that's what it would be.
Did they even speak like that in England? Was that radio in England as well?
No, that was... No, that was... And here on the BBC, next... No, wait a minute. Let me get... This is Oliver Liddell with the BBC News from Alexandra Palace. They used to wear dinner jackets, of course.
Yeah.
But
on the radio?
On the radio.
Why?
The BBC...
No one could see them.
No, but it was etiquette. So the BBC was really primarily aimed at middle-class people. Because they were the only people who could afford a radio.
Yeah.
And the same with television, and it was there. The BBC was there to as a public service.
So just like us, public service.
Well, it was a public service, yeah. But I think that the whole idea of critics only really took off as the power of studios and TV and everything sort of waned a little bit. Yeah. And then people became highly critical. And now they're critical of everything.
I mean, now everyone's a critic.
I mean, at the moment, probably the first group of people to watch this, there'll be a Twitter storm. People will be on Twitter saying, you have to watch these people for how bad they are.
Well, they'll just instantly want to cancel us.
And that's just our family. That's my wife, your brother and sister.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, I think we're going to call it a day.
Yeah, let's call it a day.
But yeah, do we know which film we're going to talk about next? Because we'll show you how the secret sauce is made. We've already watched a few films, haven't we?
I think the next film we will talk about. Shall we go for a French film? We've done the Germans.
Yeah. And
we'll do a French film. Yeah. What about that French film we watched?
We could do that one.
Yeah. Do you want to tell them what it is? Or should we let them...
No, we'll keep them in suspense.
Yeah.
Even though I have no idea how I'm going to be putting these out. I might just put them all out at once. So
Will they ever be transcribed into paperback?
Yeah. They're going to be transcribed into 56 languages.
And we'll have all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Hieroglyphics and what.
Oh, yeah.
What you should do, and I tell you what you should do really for mankind, is we should take this podcast and we should...
Put it into space.
Yeah. How did you know?
I could just see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
I always know.
The final frontier.
I always know when you're about to start talking about space.
Yeah, because that is my space. Can we have a few space films, please?
We can actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few films.
I'll tell you what, we'll watch a little film called Solaris. Which is about as much about space as
I've had a Solero.
Yeah.
That's a nice
Solero.
lolly. But,
they're nice, aren't they?
oh, they're lovely.
Oh, I want a Solero now. Next episode, we'll eat Solero as well. While we're doing this.
Yeah, and we'll be sponsored by Wall's Ice Cream, which is a UK firm.
Yeah.
For those listeners abroad, both of them.
Right, we've tried ending this podcast about 5 times.
Yeah, not done it very successfully.
No.
So I think,
are we going to go for it this time?
yeah. Shall we go? Shall we have a tune at the end, like the Mickey Mouse Club?
Yeah. Well,
Because it is a bit of a Mickey Mouse production.
I know it is. Yeah. Oh, we might get sued by Disney. now.
Oh, Disney.
Or they might watch this and go, "This is so amazing." Put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, stream it. We stream it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Just think someone in Ohio, or Iowa.
Idaho.
Iowa. It's a brand new state. Somebody in Iowa
Yes.
or Ohio
Yes.
is paying the $5.99 subscription. And they're there and they're going through the channels, and there's like the Marvel channel, there's a Star Wars channel, there's a Pixar channel.
There's the old channel of racist Disney films.
Oh, God.
Have you heard about all these films from like the 30s and 40s?
Absolutely.
Where there's like people in blackface in the cartoons.
That's not good.
No. Anyway, we're not in that section.
We're
Go
not
on.
in that and we don't condone it in any
No.
way, shape or form.
What section are we in?
I think then we would be in the when you get right to the end, you know, like you do the same thing on Amazon. I go on Amazon Prime, and they put the first 3 or 4 movies are pretty good,
Yeah.
and then they're not that good, and then right at the end,
You get a gem.
no, you don't. You get an episode of something like "What's My Line" with Groucho Marx from 1952.
Okay.
I mean, Amazon really. You know, no wonder they give it away for free, because nobody could charge for that stuff.
No. Right.
That's the Amazon contract gone.
And Disney
Jeff
Plus.
Bezos, you ain't going into space, son.
No.
You're not. You'll have to take the SpaceX. Turn up, Blue Origin. No, son. Not after that comment. Just go over there and see Elon.
Yeah. Elon.
Or Elon.
Who's Elon?
Elon. That's his brother. Elon and Elon.
Let's get Elon on the podcast.
That's what we could do. We could get Elon Musk, not Musk. Let's find somebody out there called Elon Musk and get him on the podcast.
Oh, God, we really have gone off the rails.
Gosh, we've got to end this, you know, because the electric meter's got to go in a minute. The electricity's got to go.
I know,
off. There'll be nothing happening.
And this is my house. I'm paying for this. You're not paying for my electricity. So,
thank you so much.
M is a great film by Fritz Lang.
Yeah, loved every minute
Please
of it.
watch it. If it's, if it's the last thing you do, just watch it.
Yeah. Although,
Don't make it. Don't make it.
Although,
the
if
last
watching
thing.
a film is the last thing you're ever going to do, gee, you're sad.
No, look, watching a film is going to be the last thing I do.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm hopefully going to be 99 years old or something.
Yeah.
And I will be watching. Oh gosh.
Ferris Bueller's Day.
No, I'll be watching Jackie Chan's Police Story.
Oh yeah. Or
That's
The Raid.
The Raid. Yeah, that's.
That just to keep your pulse going.
I'm gonna watch The Raid. That's how it's gonna end.
Yeah, just to keep your pulse going.
Yeah.
And your vital signs.
Yeah.
So they say, is he dead yet?
Yeah.
No, he's still alive. he's just finishing the last couple of minutes of The Raid.
There's the bit where they shoot a guy into a fridge, and I come back. I come back from the dead.
Yeah. Oh God, we've got to end this. Honestly,
I feel like
fair. It's not fair on the viewers and the one listener we've got. We've got to keep these people sweet. You know?
I know. Yeah. Oh gosh.
And yeah, listen. I think it's time to say goodbye.
It's time to.
We have to bring this to a close.
So yeah, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you so much. We weren't very quiet then, didn't we? So very polite. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And please feel free.
Please come back to BBC.
Yes, and please feel free to join us for the next episode of
My Father versus
My Father, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, My Father, that's me, versus World Cinema. Thank you.
The End.
The end. Good night.
Coming to a cinema next summer.
Meanwhile, over on the east side of Chicago.
Okay, I'm cutting it now. That's it. It's done.